Okay. Um, okay, could you stop right there? All right, she says a person has a 2,000 calorie per day diet. Is that important information to everyone else? If you think so, please give her a thumbs up. Okay, I see 2 people ready. You still thinking? Do you think that's important information? Okay. Could someone else come up and continue if you feel there's more important information found in this problem? All right. Okay, if you agree that what he wrote is important information, please give him a thumbs up. One person is ready. I see someone checking and rereading. That's very good. I see 2 people rereading to see if that's important information. Yes. Do you agree that 2,000 calories of protein is important? Okay, so you would give him a thumbs up. What about you, Charlena? I'm sorry? All right, very good. Could you go up and put a fact that might be important to this problem? Okay, do you want to ask your classmates for some assistance? Please do so. You don't have to come up, you can just talk to her. Okay, so I like that you understand that there's going to be some type of variable in this problem. And in order for us to solve it, we would have to isolate it. But is that specific information from the problem that's going to help us solve for that variable? Okay, so we don't want that in our key information. We want more facts from the problem. Chauncey, what are you thinking? I'm sorry, say it again. Okay, so we're in agreement that a person, the average adult, should have 2,000 calories per day in their diet. 200 of those calories should be protein. Is there any other information in there that would help us solve the questions that they are asking us?
Using proportions.
And I see that some of you have it underlined, so don't be ashamed to say it. And if you need to reread, that's fine. We are going to calculate the answer, but in order for us to calculate an answer, we have to have all that important information from the problem. So maybe we should start here. Could someone read aloud, D'Angelo, please read aloud the question for us. The first question says what?
What percent of the person diet comes from
Carbohydrates. So if they want us to find out the percent of our diet that should be carbohydrates, do you think maybe some important information will relate to carbohydrates? Okay, so reread again and try to find some information that relates to carbohydrates. No, you can read it up there if you choose. And feel free to ask your classmates for assistance.
Answer the questions by using both proportions and percent equations in the table shown.
Okay, does that talk about carbohydrates? Listen to what she said.
Yeah.
In what way?
Because it's not talking about here. Because it's talking about answer the question by using proportions and percent equations in the table shown.
Okay, does that talk exactly about carbohydrates? Okay, so we need a line in there that talks directly about that. I want you to take a seat again, reread it, and think about the key word carbohydrate. Okay, what are you thinking?
It says 1,000 calories of carbohydrates.
Okay, well that certainly deals with carbohydrates. Chauncey, do you think that's important information? Could you write it up there for us, please? Ernest, can you show him, please? Thank you. I like how you're working together to help each other. Thank you. Now, we've been discussing proportions, and I think you guys have been doing well in understanding the concepts. We had an algorithm, is over of equals percent over 100, yes? So when we deal with our proportions, that's what we're going to use. Is over of equals percent over 100. But before we can actually use the formula, we need to figure out what the question is asking us to find. So let me read the first question. It says, what percent of a person's diet comes from carbohydrates? So what are the key words in that question? Yes, ma'am.
Carbohydrates.
Carbohydrates, very good. Yes, ma'am.
And what percent?
Absolutely. So we don't know what percent it is, right? So what I want you to do is go up to the board and begin to write your proportion. Think about where the variable would be placed. What would go in the of's position and what would go in the is's position. Please start now.
Oh, like all of us?
Absolutely. It's okay if you don't come up with the same thing. We'll discuss it afterwards.
So up here, is that a part of that too?
No. Hold on, Ernest. I like that you are beginning to think about the cross multiplication method. But right now, I just want you to set up your proportion because we're going to compare it to one another's. Now, Charlene, you talked to me about what the question asked, and you said a key portion of the question is said what percent, right? That's what we're trying to find, yes? So that's something that we don't know. So how do we represent something that we don't know?
We put a variable in its place.
We put a variable in its place. So do you think that you placed your variable in the correct spot?
No.
Where should you place it?
Right here.
Absolutely. Very good. Okay, so we're trying to find the percent of carbohydrates, right?
Yeah.
Do we know that percent?
No.
So how do we represent an unknown?
Oh, I have to take aside the percent spot.
Okay, very good. All right, so talk to me about how you came up with yours. What's this 40 represent?
The percent, because on the, I think on the top question it said 40% per day.
Okay, reread your paper. And let me point out this exact question. It says, what percent of a person's diet comes from carbohydrates? What's another way to say that question?
How much does it come from carbohydrates?
Yeah, do we know that percent? So how do we represent an unknown?
A variable.
Okay, so if we don't know the percent, do you think you placed your variable in the correct spot? Where do you think it should go? Very good. Make sure you correct it. Okay, Chauncey, so talk to me about this 200 in the numerator's position.
Well, I thought it was going to be there because the 200 is where it is at.
Okay. Now, we're answering this question. What percent of a person's diet comes from carbohydrates? What does that 200 represent? And look at our key information.
Protein,
Go ahead, you were reading it correctly. So the 200 represents what?
protein.
Protein. Are we answering that question right now?
Oh, no.
So is that information important to this particular part of the problem? Okay, so maybe you need to rethink what goes here. You're right in that this is a portion of this, but we're talking about carbohydrates. What number represents carbohydrates?
Or the 1,000.
The 1,000. So how should you change your proportion?
For the 1,000.
Very good. In 5 seconds, you're going to sit back down and we're going to look at each other's proportions. No, sweetie, you can leave that. 5, start making your way back to your seat. 4, 3, that's 1,000. You put 100. 2, 1. Okay, I want you to look at each other's proportions. Start to think about what is similar and what is different. Let's begin to look at the right side of our proportion. All of you seem to have very similar things. You have x over 100, x over 100, x over 100. And you left this blank, Chauncey, because you don't know what that number is, right? What do we normally use when we don't know what a number is? A variable. So you knew to put a variable there. Very good. So we're on the right track because all of you had the same ratio on the right side. Now let's look at the left side. Some of you have different things. So let's start with Shileena's and D'Angela's. You both have 200 over 2,000. What does this 200 represent?
200 represent calories.
Okay, calories from what?
Oh, wait, no.
But I accidentally did it wrong. It's supposed to be 1,000.
Are you sure?
No, we did it wrong because see, it says calories of protein and we on the
Carbohydrates, yes. I'm glad that you went back and read that. So at this time, if you choose to get up and fix this, please do. All right, Ernest, you came up with 40 here. Can you explain why you did that?
I came up 40 because on number 3,
Uh-huh.
I forgot the number, but it says 40%. And I thought I went to the next one.
Well, I'm glad that you read, but 3 and 4 are not connected, okay? So remember, we want to go back to the key information that we started off with in 4. Is any of our key information related to this 40%?
200 calories.
Okay, so the 200 calories represents what? And you can talk to Chauncey about it. What does that 200 really mean?
Protein.
It's protein, right? Chauncey, what question are we answering right now?
This is about saying, what's the what percent of the person's diet from carbohydrates?
From carbohydrates, right? So, should we be focused on protein right now? Why should we be focused on protein right now?
Because
Go ahead, I'm listening.
for percent.
Okay, well, it does say what percent. We're trying to find the percent, which is why you put a variable in the percent space. So that's great. But we're trying to find the percent of what?
Carbohydrates.
Carbohydrates. And you did underline that as important information. So from our important information, we need to go to what we're dealing with carbohydrates, yes? So what do you think we could possibly put in this numerator's position? And please talk to one another. He put 40 here. She says you should have put 1,000. Can you explain to him why you feel that way?
Yes, because in the text it says 1,000 calories of carbohydrate
Hydrate.
and 200 calories of protein. So we on that carbohydrate.
Good, and I'm so glad you went back to the text. So Ernest, after having that, did you hear what she said? Do you think 40 is still the correct number to put here? What number do you think might go here? 1,000. Please fix it. And Chauncey, you already have 1,000. So it looks like now everyone's proportion is exactly the same. So now we need to talk about the meanings of these numbers. What does that 1,000 represent? It's not just digits. Yes, ma'am.
It represents the calories of I just saw it.
It's okay.
Yes, carbohydrates.
Okay, so we're certainly, why would we want to put it in the numerator spot instead of the denominator spot? And please talk to each other about it.
Or
You can talk to each other.
yes, we did like that because 2,000 is what's all together. That's like what down to the denominator. And the numerator is going to be 1,000 because we should have to figure out what's the percent, like how much do they have like each day, like all together. Like,
I like something that you said. This 2,000 deals with the total, right? When we deal with our denominators, Chauncey, our denominator always represents what type of number? Because we always say fractions are a part over the whole, right? So we put 2,000 at the bottom in the denominator spot because it's the what? It is the greater number and it's also the whole, right? It's the total what? And you could talk to each other. Go ahead. I thank you for talking with us. It's the total calories that we should eat a day, right? And this 1,000 is only a part of that. It's only what we should have in what? Say it again. In carbohydrates. So that's our part over the whole. Can somebody explain to me why they put a variable here? Yes, ma'am.
Me?
Yes.
They put he put a variable right there because it's nothing right there. So we put, if it was a number, we would have put like a percent in it, but it's no percent, so we just put it on place with a variable.
So that's something we need to find, right? So since that's something we need to find, once we get that percent, what would that percent mean in relation to this problem? What are you thinking, Chauncey? Once we find the percent, what does that percent mean in relation to this problem?
It means a percent.
Percent of?
The variable. I mean for the numerator.
Well, let's go back to our question. What's the key word in the question that we're looking for?
Carbohydrates.
Exactly. So, That would be the percent of carbohydrates that we should have in a day. Very good. So remember that our numbers have meaning, and you did a great job of deciphering what those meanings are and coming up with your proportions. At this time, please get up and solve your proportions. Ernest, do you have your chalk? Okay. Chauncey, make sure you show your work too as you're calculating. And please circle your answer at the end so we can compare. Don't forget your units. So I like how you showed your work. Let's talk about your units. Remember our key question. What were we trying to solve for?
Trying to solve for carbohydrates.
Carbohydrates, right? Are carbohydrates and fat the same? And think about our video that we watched earlier in the week. So, would you possibly change your units or keep them the same?
Yeah, let's say calories and fat because
Calories is okay. Okay. Thank you for sharing. All right, Charlene, tell me what you did first.
Alright. I put my 2,000 right here.
Okay, you should have multiplied 2,000 times x, right? That's why you circled it.
And that's 2,000.
2,000 times x?
No, 1.
Well, let's think about it. What's 1 times x?
1,000.
1x, right? Now let me ask you this. What's 4 times x? 5 times x? 2,000 times x? Oh! So what needs to go there? Good. Don't forget your equal sign in between. Now, the next thing it looks like you did is 1,000 times 100, yes? Okay, so using your calculator, please figure out that, the product of those two numbers. Very good. I thank you for helping him, D'Angelo. Okay, Chauncey. Now, I noticed that something that you did was you decided to find an equivalent fraction here. Now, let's talk about when we do proportions, what method do we normally use?
Division.
Well, that's when we're finding equivalent fractions. And I agree with you, if I divide it by 20, this would be true because this is half. But, you know what? You did a different method. It works. I think it's awesome. Okay. So, what would you say your final answer is going to be?
50 over 100.
So, what percent would that be?
50%.
50%. And I'm glad you went back to our earlier lessons and used those skills too. And if you like this method, then you can use it. Very good.
Just you just want us to erase it for a second, please, when you're done. I messed up with this.
D'Angela, I think you set up everything right. But could you please review your division here?
It's wrong.
I said review it. I didn't say it was wrong. Chauncey, you have to write your answer like they did at the end and circle it, please, so we can compare. Thank you for helping him, Ernest. I like how some people are going back to their notes. Very good, D'Angelo. Make sure you give me your units. In 5 seconds, we're going to come back together as a group. If you're finished, please take a seat. If you're finished, please take a seat. Thank you so much. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. You guys did an awesome job. And as I noticed, everyone came up with the same answer. So what does that 50 truly represent in relation to this problem? Yes, ma'am. It's okay.
How much you need to have like each day?
How much of what?
How much I know.
Okay.
Carbohydrates.
Carbohydrates. Now, do you agree with her, Ernest? Is that what you were going to say? What about you, Chauncey? What do you think that 50 represents? Huh?
Carbohydrates.
Okay, what do you think, Shilena? Now, everybody said that it represents